Hello, give me 1 second. Let me just set up my microphone position properly. Hopefully you should be able to hear me really well. Give me 2 seconds, let me just get started here. Just gonna take a look at this. GPU. Memory, yeah, that's a bit weird. I should get maybe. Yeah, that's really strange. All right. Alrighty, are we live? Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Should be able to hear me. Hello. Let me just check one thing here very quickly. Limiter NVIDIA broadcast removal be denoiser, that's fine. Nice, very good. All right, cool. Should be fine now, I suppose. Alrighty, where did we stop? Yesterday when I streamed. Let's go to our roadmap here. Yeah, so we'll need to take a look at that today. And let's open up a couple of things here. So we'll need the API, we need the orchestrator, and we need the front end. And then we need the orchestrator as well. Where's our orchestrator? It's here. Yeah, great. Let's zoom out a bit. We have this. Yeah, all right. All right, so let's create some sort of a maybe to do for this stream. So we have this one, and we have. So we need to finalize that. In relation to our traffic and serving the API and the backend through on the same host name, which I'm doing right now, just for development reasons. So we have this guy, and then we have the API as well, right? Yeah. Okay, super. All right, cool. Let me see. All right, cool. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Craft, Rugs. Hi, thank you very much for coming. All right, so I just started the stream a minute ago. So essentially what we're gonna do today is I need to kind of start wrapping up some of this boilerplate for this course. So where we need to land today in this stream is I just want to land essentially finalizing this basic UI. So we have the logging in. Seaplane, hey buddy, good to see you, man. Yeah, this is just testing. Yeah, all right. So right now, so let's write a couple of things that I want to finish the stream today, and then that's going to be great. So let's just say here, let's just say to do for this very stream. So we're going to have a couple of things. Actually, I can just, this one is going to be the toughest because it's something that I wanted to do for a while. And I'll explain in a moment what I mean by that. So we're going to have this one. Then I'm going to remove this task. So first and foremost, right, what I want to learn and achieve today, and then of course teach in this course that I'm going to record for Udemy, is this. And let me show you. So right now we have two Docker Compose files, right? We have the main file, which is going to be our production file, and then we have one override. So we have Docker Compose override, which is our development file, right? Because we want to, under the same umbrella, the idea with this infrastructure is minimal friction difference between production and staging environments, right? So this is a dream of every developer when it comes to developer experience. This is what you want to have. You want to have minimal friction differences between different environments. Doesn't matter if it's production, development, staging. This is basically staging. You want it to be the same. So the way that I'm achieving this now with Docker Compose being our orchestrator, right, is we have an override file. That's typical way to do it, right? And in the override file, you change the configuration of the main file. And typically what you do here is you expose the ports outside of the network of Docker. So locally when you're working, you can, connect to a database as we are and do various types of things. Now, one big problem with this, right, is that what really happens between these two when it comes to some directives is that they get merged, right? So for example, when you do something like, for example, let's find something from the override. So you can see here we have our API, and we are overriding some API things for our locally. And then we have the API directive here for production, right? Now, for example, these labels, which are directives from traffic from our reverse proxy, they're getting merged into this, right? So in this context here, I don't want to carry over anything from Docker Compose. I want to override the labels in Docker Compose, right? And because some of these labels that I have for development are not the same as here, they're getting merged. So essentially you have you have some config. So the problem right now is that we have config X and we have config Y, which is our config Y is our staging config, but then they're getting merged, right? And oftentimes you don't want that, so they kind of get merged like that, like this, right? So, but instead I don't actually want that. I want sometimes a directive to be fully replacing the original one from Docker Compose, right? And unfortunately, there really isn't a way in this context. The only way is to use Docker profiles, and I can actually show you. So yeah, here they are. So Docker profiles from Docker 2.0 and onwards enable you to have these profiles for your services. And then when you run the Docker Compose command, you can say run this profile. The biggest problem with this whatsoever is that you duplicate a lot of services. So you can see like you have web and then you have web_dev or whatever. So I also dislike that, because Docker Compose file then is going to become even bigger than it already is. So these are the only two ways that I know of. And I don't know if there's something else we can do. Of course, we could write some shell scripts and generate some of this stuff dynamically, programmatically, if you may, but that's not what I want to do. So we'll see, but that's not what we're going to start the stream today with. So we have this, we have, finalize, the basic UI. And that means basically ensure that cookie is used, have some basic landing page. Why is Docker useful? Well, Docker, everything is running in Docker today, right? Every single service that you run, every single server that there is running on Docker, right? It's a way more efficient virtual machine, if you may, right? So Docker is everywhere, right? Kubernetes is using Docker. Everything, every single, even one-click thing such as Vercel and all of these things that a lot of beginners are using, all of that in the background is using Docker containers, right? Docker containers is a way to isolate servers, let's say, or services on the same machine, right? So you encapsulate them into this. It's just encapsulation, right? So, and in our context, it's useful because of production. And of course, it's useful because of development as well, because you can replicate your production environment locally as well. So, but in this course that it's going to hopefully end up in some time on Udemy, you'll be able to learn this. Is the cookie problem solved? Yeah, cookie problem is solved. I'll show that in a minute. My pleasure. Just think about Docker. Think about. I mean, I think the best way to understand whole programming IT industry as a whole, is that encapsulation is really everywhere. We encapsulate, for example, when you think about the browser, when you think about the Chromium browser, when you open this tab in your browser, when you run an Electron app, all of these things are self-contained, encapsulated. That's, for example, electron.js, and some of these things and the binary they produce are so inefficient because they don't yield they don't use dynamic libraries, so they don't use anything from your system. They bundle all of the static libraries as part of the binary. That's why when you install an Electron app, it can be an app with a single input. It's still like 40 megabytes. Encapsulation is a very important concept to understand in programming in general. Like in this context, we're talking about Docker, but encapsulation is everywhere. You encapsulate your React components. You make them self-sufficient. You encapsulate your resources in the API, right? So as a concept, it's incredibly important to understand why we want to often isolate. When you think about, for example, a shadow DOM, not virtual DOM, when you think about native components, like when you think about shadow DOM, right? Shadow DOM in the browser, if for those of you who were long enough in this industry, if you remember Polymer.js and native web components, Shadow DOM is a way to encapsulate components in the browser so they have their own scope, so they're not being affected by the outside CSS and classes, etc., etc. So you can see, like, no matter where you poke in this industry, encapsulation is always there. And isolation, right? Because we want to build systems which have components which are isolated from the surrounding context around them, right? So it's everywhere. In this context, we're talking about Docker, but as you can see, it's really everywhere. All right, let's start here. Let's just so let's use the cookie. So last night after the stream, I spent some time with my wife and kid, and then I just sat for 20 minutes and solved that cookie issue. And the cookie issue is solved by using my traffic reverse proxy over here and serving the API and UI in development, serving it on the same root domain. So instead of using subdomain like api.localhost, ui.localhost, what I'm doing is localhost/AI, localhost/UI, API and UI, and that makes it, because it's the both services are running on the same domain, then the cookie is actually properly set. And if I go to this very basic thing that we're building now as a boilerplate, right, we can see that if we go to /UI/login and we do like a@b.com, password 123, and we go to application and we go to cookies, right? We can see that the cookie is actually set and it's preserved. If I refresh, it's still there, right? So pretty much now every request we make to our API will contain our cookie. So for example, if I go to the UI here and getting the user, if we take a look at the HTTP headers, in the HTTP headers, we can see that there are 2 cookies. There's actually some additional cookies that shouldn't really be here, but it doesn't matter. They are, and we can see there's a IFS cookie, which stands for Infrastructure for Startups. That's the course that I'm attempting to make and record, right? So now that's fine. Now the cookie is sent with every request sent to our API. So now we just need to make UI a little bit more clever, and we're going to do that now. Just make sure, hey, to know our UI now globally needs to know, are we logged in? And that's really it. So. And the way we can achieve this, right, we can achieve this in many ways. We can expose a /me or whatever endpoint in our API that's just going to tell us, hey, are we logged in, right? Well, actually, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was better to have them on subdomains, but that is always a cookie problem, right? As soon as you are not serving cookies under the same root domain, you're fundamentally introducing a third-party cookies, right? So this is always, if you guys remember, and I happen to work for a company called Dream Data, so let's say I'm an expert in cookies and tracking and all of that stuff in marketing. When it comes to third-party cookies, the problem is also that Google almost discontinued them or stopped supporting them in the Chromium browser. They kind of pulled back on that for now. But third-party cookies are the evil guy, on the internet, because once the cookie is set in your browser, it can then be used across all sessions of other websites, right? So in this context, we do want to work with first-party cookies, and unfortunately, the only way to use first-party cookies is by having them on the same host. As long as it's a different even subdomain that's treated as a different host, meaning, it becomes, the only solution there becomes third-party cookies or no cookies at all, right? So that's why using cookies is a little bit painful sometimes. That's why somebody would be more reluctant to use local storage sometimes, or even IndexedDB or whatever, right? So there's many storage solutions in the browser. But cookie is the most secure when you do it right? When you do it as a secure-only cookie, HTTP-only cookie, etc. All right. Anyway, let's fix this, right? So what I'm going to do, because this needs to stay minimum, I'm actually going to go to the user controller, and I'm gonna just introduce something like get logged in user, something like this, right? And what we're gonna do here, obviously not this, that's completely wrong, right? When the user logs in, we should have a user set on the request object, right? So exactly, right? Okay, so let's maybe something like this. We'll get rid of this. That's not correct. That interface is correct. That's fine. And what we're actually going to do here is, okay, let's think a little bit about this. So we have the authorization here. We have the controller, and this is kind of where we set the user in. We get the token, and then we return this to the right. Now what we actually need, we need some decorator that's gonna determine if the user is logged in, right? And if it is, to identify that the user is. I'll actually show you. We can actually take a look at we can do something like programmer network API, and let's see what I've done there, just to save time, because this is not fun for me. Yeah, so if we search for login, I suppose I have some /login here as well. Yeah, I do. So let's see what we do. We do a lot more stuff here, of course, but the course that I want to record has to be a lot simpler, because the point is not to. So we can see we do a lot of stuff here. We also respond with a cookie. That's great. We do some extra validation here. We update the user when the user last logged in, if email is confirmed. None of this I will do here. And then probably somewhere in my decorators, right? I have a decorator that ensures that the user is, so let's see, is authenticated. Yeah, so here we have verify JSON web token, right? Which is a function that looks like this. And that's request JVT verify. And this JVT verify is in fact added by Fastify JVT. So basically that's what kind of adds this method to the, let's just find the official repository of that. Is it here? So JVT verify. Yeah, here it is, right? So once you set up this Fastify plugin, you're gonna get this JVT verify decorator on your request object. So that's what we're gonna do there as well. So we have this verify JVT, and I don't know if I need to for this project put it inside of the utility, but if we actually take a look at this, so I have this is authenticated decorator, and then we have a few others which I actually don't need here. Okay, so let's do this very simply. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to take this fella and I'm going to move it to my to this boilerplate that I'm creating. So I'm going to go to setup. And let's create a new file. This is kind of my own way, my own terminology of setting up Fastify projects. I invented it. There's no right or wrong way, but I think it makes total sense. So we're gonna say setup decorators TS, and yeah, as with other modules here, like plugins and stuff, we're gonna export a function that gets the Fastify instance, right? So I'm actually going to just wrap this bad boy like this, and like this. And then we'll import Fastify instance type. And then we have this Fastify decorator. Awesome, and very happy that you like it. But Docker is awesome, and Docker is one of the most useful tools in our industry. So if you don't, and it's very easy to learn. You don't get the biggest problem with Docker courses on Udemy and YouTube that they sometimes span to like 40 hours. You can realistically learn Docker in around an hour, but learn the pieces that you actually need as a developer. So you need to know how to write a basic Docker file, what an image is, what a container is, how to run a container, in a detached mode, and then Docker Compose or Docker Swarm, and then eventually Kubernetes. You probably will never need it, but really Docker Compose for production as well is sufficient for majority of companies still, which is also why I'm recording a course using Docker Compose and not, Docker Swarm or Kubernetes, because these solutions solve a little bit different problems, and they're used for a different scale, right? So you're good with Docker Compose for a very, very long time. All right, so this is very good. I like this. This is really what we need. And instead of verify JVT here, because I'm not going to be carrying over this thing, we'll just call actually the request and then verify the user like this, right? So I'm actually going to close this. I no longer need it. And here we're going to simply await right? We simply I'm going to actually get rid of this. And actually, I'm just going to wait for this because this is going to throw. I happen to remember that this JVT verify is actually going to throw. And the only kind of thing I dislike here is that this JVT verify now, as you can see, we're missing a type. Let's actually go here. Because how can yeah, here's the TypeScript. Yeah, so this is what we kind of need to do, right? So where is our types for this project? So Fastify instance extends. Yeah, that's actually a little bit weird. So we did kind of do that already. So how come? Oh, I see. So this is what we're missing, it seems. Security. Alternatively, we can type each key explicitly. Yeah, I mean, the problem is whatsoever that I don't see it. Alternatively, you can type... Okay, give me a moment. Maybe I should be... We have declared the module, Fastify. It almost seems that... I'll just attempt this, and then if we take a look at this thing, yeah, that's weird. Yeah, that seems completely wrong. App.decorate. Okay, I'll need to figure that out another time. I'm not gonna waste time on that right now. What did this do? All right, let's just leave it. Oh, I see. What? Oh, I see. So here we're actually declaring the is authenticated decorator, right? Yeah, for sure, Craft. So here we actually declare our custom decorator. So we'll see in a moment how that is. So let's leave it. So this so far suffices, I believe. And then the create error, I actually don't have it here. So what I'm actually going to do, I'll just throw new error like this. So this is our decorator, and now we can start checking if a user is authenticated, right? So that's really what we want. All right, cool. So let's close this, and yeah. And now we have to go to our server somewhere, or some place where we create the original instance. And actually we set up the environment, the plugins, and then maybe here set up decorators. And I'm going to import that, and I'm going to take a look at the Docker logs for my API and see if that's sufficient. Is it still rendering? Yeah, it's fine. Okay, good. So that seemed to work. Let's close that. And now we can actually go to our controller somewhere, user controller maybe. And it's now the question is, should we keep this in the user controller or move this to the auth, right? the authentication part, right? And I think we can leave it here. So here, what we're gonna do, I'm actually gonna just go to my router somewhere. And actually we have this one, which, yeah, I don't actually think we need this right now. So I'm actually gonna nuke this. And over here, we're gonna say, nah, this should be a request.user.email. So something like this, if no user return. And we actually don't need to do any extra validation here, 401 or 403, because we're gonna do that in a moment with a decorator. So if we go to the router over here, we have the router, we have get user by ID, which is actually should be now get logged in user. So we're gonna change that. And we'll actually get rid of this one. So we'll get rid of that, we'll replace this. And then over here, we'll actually say pre-handler app is authenticated. So we're gonna use basically this this pre-handler hook. If we take a look at Fastify hook, lifecycle methods, we can actually search for pre-hook here. We can actually do pre-parsing, parsing, pre-validation, validation. So we want to ensure that the user is logged in before any of this. We can also do on request. We'll see in a moment. So let's see now what's going to happen when we do this. So we are basically, this is our middleware almost. If you've ever written any express, this would be equivalent of a middleware function. In our case, it's a hook, right? So this is going to run before we hit the controller, and this has to return basically a truthy value, if you may. And actually, when I said that, let's make sure that, do we really need to do anything here? I think so, yeah. Yeah, so here we're gonna say const user is this, and then we're gonna say request user is user, right? So something like this. I believe if we go back to my programmer network API and just we quickly take a look at that. If we go to, where were we? Setup decorators, yeah. And then if we search for is authenticated, we can see here that we verify the JVT, and then we return the user essentially from here. So actually I'm going to do the same here. Instead of explicitly doing this, I'll actually just return it like this. Okay, cool. All right, so now what I'm actually going to do in the front end, this is going to fail now. It's going to just say loading indefinitely. Hi, Chad and Alexa. Good, man. How are you? Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming, man. How are you? Let me just take a look at my Swagger spec now. So we have API v1 users. Yeah, this is now a little bit wrong. We actually didn't update the we didn't update the schema here, so there's no URL parameters anymore. So we're gonna get rid of that. So we need to update that. Let's see now. So v1 users, yeah. So we're just calling the users with nothing, and then we're expecting this response, right? If we take a look at our OpenSpec API. So this is good. Yeah, we'll probably want to omit the password from this thing, but yeah, let's take a look at that now. So if I go to the front end, we go over here somewhere. I actually don't know where I'm doing this call, but let's go back here. It's probably here, yeah. So get user by ID, that's actually incorrect. We need to regenerate our client-side library. Fullbringer, hi buddy, good to see you again, man. So I'm gonna call this generate services. As I said, I'm using a tool that's called Open API Generator, and this Open API Generator takes your OpenSpec API, and then it generates your client-side library, in my case, Axios, right? So I'm using this now, Docker image for that. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm gonna call this outside here in the root of the infrastructure for startups. So I'm just gonna actually call this bad boy here. I need to figure out where to put that before I record the course. Swagger is a way to document your API and yes, and of course call the endpoints. So if we go to our Swagger over here, right, we can also, just as you do with Postman, we can also come here and then we can execute some of these. So I can say try it out and I can execute here, right? Of course, this is not going to work now because but actually you can see in this context it has worked because we haven't actually added authorization yet. But you can see now I can just come to users and I run this and you can see we get the response body and we see what's here, right? So yes, but it's a way to document your API. Think about it this way. You don't want... Documentation is the crucial and essential part of every serious product. It doesn't matter if it's an API, it doesn't matter if it's a UI library, if it's front end, if it's a set of microservices. Documentation is fundamental if you're working in a cross-team environment where you don't want to go individually to people and asking, hey, how do I get users? How do I get apples in my UI, right? So this is a way to in our case, Fastify is amazing, right? Do you know if there's a native way to visualize your Swagger within GitHub? What do you mean visualize? You mean show this, show the documentation like this? Because you should be able to publish this as a static site, right? If you mean, can you host the Swagger spec like this on GitHub? I believe you can, yeah. I see no reason why you couldn't. As long as you generate it as a static site, you can, yes. You should be able to do it, yes. Let's actually ask the AI just to save some time, but I see no reason why not. You should be able to do it on Cloudflare pages. Let's take a look at it together. Can I somehow generate my, I know you can, I'm 100% sure, but let's just confirm. Can I somehow generate my Swagger OpenSpec API as a static site and host it on GitHub pages? LobeChat is an open source client for OpenAI and other vendors. I'm paying for an OpenAI key. My company is paying, so I'm not using ChatGPT. I'm using an OpenAI key, so I can use AI as much as I want. So I have no constraints. Yeah, so you can do it. As you can see, download Swagger UI, replace the OpenSpec API, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you can do it, yeah. Can I somehow generate this for you? I guess I can. Give me a second. So what I'm actually... Can I like copy this whole crap? Yes, I have managed to fix the routing problem, yes. And it was exactly what I said shoots them before I ended the stream. Let me just... it's exactly what I suggested before I ended the stream. I just said to... let me just send this to him so he knows how to do it. Wasn't there like a publish or export your files to the web? No, there was like... yeah, print, and then I can save this as a PDF, right? Yeah. Or as... yeah, I guess so. Shit, but how will I... PDF Alex. Let me just smack this somewhere in Discord, and then... who asked? Fullbringer asked. So Fullbringer, if you have left my Discord, just join again. And then I don't have a way to send you this PDF via chat, sadly. So let's just get here, and I'll just put it under random. And then you can go. No worries, man. It takes a second for me. All right, so yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's actually go now to our UI. I should have generated now the new client side. So this should be now get... ah, shit, that's not good. Did I not generate it? Give me a second. My pleasure, man. Fuck, why is this still showing the old one? I don't think that I have... Do I have get user by ID still? Ah, crap, maybe I forgot to update a name or something. Give me a second. Yeah. This operation ID is what I forgot to update. So this should be pretty much called exactly the same. So this should be get logged in user schemas, get logged in user, yeah, and then get logged in user, get logged in user schemas, yeah. Cool. Let's try to generate this this OpenSpec API again, and then if we go to our front end here, yeah, there we go. And then we no longer need an ID because it's not taking anything. Okay, cool. So let's try going to the front end and refreshing here now. And yeah, it actually works, ironically, right? And you can see it works because we are in fact attaching an HTTP cookie here, but let's actually 100% make sure it works, because let's do one thing. So let's go to this is authenticated. Let's go to our decorators here, and let's just throw an error here. So let's just say throw new error, whatever, just to test it, right? Now if I go to my UI, it should fail. And as you can see, you don't have access to please authenticate. So actually it does seem to work. JVT verify works because our token is in fact correct. If we go and clear out the cookies, so if we go to storage and nuke it and refresh, it should fail now, and it did, as you can see, and it's saying you don't have access, please authenticate. So if we go to our login again and do AB and we do this, right, it should now work when we go back. All right, cool. So that's great. So just for you, shoots them. The way that it's solved is exactly what I said before the stream last time, right? The issue, as always with cookies, is we had our host names like api.localhost, and then we had UI.localhost. These are my etc host file, aliases, right? And of course, because these are in different domains, the only way really for the cookie to work is to try and configure it to work as a third-party cookie, right? So instead of doing this, what I did, and keep in mind I have my own traffic reverse HTTP proxy, so we're using traffic HTTP reverse proxy, right? So pretty much what I did only for development is I essentially, instead of serving it like this, I'm serving them not under the subdomain, but under the root domain. So it's going to be API. And this is only for development, obviously not for production. And then UI, right? Now, because they're in the same domain and they're no different subdomains, right? Then it just works, right? The cookie is going to work. So we're no longer doing this and this, right? We're doing this. And simple cookie is there. So exactly, and this is achieved obviously by our traffic reverse proxy. And then if we take a look at that little configuration, it's, where is it? Here it is, right? So you can see now we have this path prefix, and the path prefix is API, and the same for the UI. Yeah, so for the front end, here it is. You can see. So we're telling the traffic to serve this under these given paths. And if I go to traffic here, dashboard, and we take a look at services, HTTP services, you can see actually if we take a look at the routers, we have the path prefix here, and then we have the path prefix here for the UI. That doesn't work. That's not going to work. The domain is not going to work because that potentially can work, but that's a third-party cookie then, right? Cookies, first-party cookies only work on the same domain. So not on the same subdomain and a root domain. So if you want to have first-party cookies, which is what you always should have, because third-party cookies are actually getting third-party cookies Google removal, right? Third-party cookies eventually will die because they're a security issue, they're a security problem, and they have been a security issue for tracking issue, right? Yeah, exactly. But you cannot do that, this dot domain, without making it a third-party cookie, right? So that's why. Anyway, you can see here when we take a look at the reverse proxy, right? You can see the host directive, the host function is like grafana.localhost, for instance, like where our dashboards are and stuff. But then the path prefix is, so these are all of our subdomains we have locally on my computer now. Prometheus, Grafana, traffic, blah, blah, blah. And then we have path prefixes, right? So essentially we're telling to our reverse proxy, we're telling to our traffic, right? We're telling to our proxy, hey proxy, you know, whenever you get a request on /API, route that to my API container, right? And same whenever a request comes to my UI, that means I want to hit my UI front-end container, right? Oh, Folks is here. Folks is my friend and he's a designer in my team where I work. Almost solid designer, almost solid. He's just learning Figma. No, I'm just kidding. He's amazing. But he's a friend and I usually troll my friends because I love them. Okay. All right, so great. So now we have that working, right? And let's just finalize this and then I'll figure out off stream eventually what I want to end in this course. But actually, let's just do one more thing here. So let's just implement here const. And I'm actually not quite sure. Like this is always a matter of preference. Like we have a user controller, we have a router, and the controller. So it's very difficult. Like for example, this create user actually should probably be under the user's router. So this is wrong now. But I'll clean that up. And actually, let's implement logout here, right? And this is really what we want. So what does it mean for us to log out? Well, we need to clear the cookie in the user's browser. So when the client calls logout, we want to clear the cookie, etc., etc. Right now, of course, this is not all of the things. I cannot teach full range thing, right? Because the course would literally end up being 200 hours. For example, when you're using JSON Web Tokens, this is actually not sufficient, right? What you also have to do, you have to also blacklist. You also have to blacklist the JSON Web Token, and this is one of the maybe downsides or problems with stateless authentication, is that when you have session-based authentication, you would clear that key in a session and it's over. When you generate a JSON Web Token, that token is going to be valid for its expiry duration. So for example, if you generate a JSON Web Token that lasts for 6 hours, that token is going to be valid for 6 hours. Like you clearing the cookies, clearing the browser cookies for the user is going to log out the user, but user can still reuse the same JSON Web Token, right? So usually what you do here, and that's what we do in Programmer Network as well, you have some Redis store or some in-memory cache, like Redis or in-mem store, just depending, you know, if you want to cluster your Node.js app, you need to lift the memory up because Node.js is single-threaded, right? And then here you would generally, like when you log out the user, right? No, not really. That's a security issue. Shoots them, right? So this is not a problem of. This is not a problem of, oh, like there's a token that's you know, the problem is that somebody gets a hold of that token, right? They can still authorize, right? So let's imagine that by accident you're sitting in a coffee bar, shop, whatever, and you log out, but you don't actually log out, whatever. You're absolutely right, of course, but it is a security thing. So when you log out the user, you also have to nuke that token by setting it up in Redis store or any memory cache, and then saying, okay, this token is no longer valid. So if a user tries logging in with this JSON Web Token, do not allow it because it's not valid. But of course, for this course, I'm not going to do that, but I'm probably going to explain it in the course just so people know. Because yeah, this is not sufficient, right? You need to blacklist the token, right? And actually, just for the sake of it, just for the sake of some of you maybe learning something new here, I'll actually show you just so you remember this. This is very important, right? It's very important to keep these security types of things. So you can see, for example, for Programmer Network, we have check token blacklist. So we get the tokens from the HTTP headers, and then we check, hey, does the token with that in the hash table in Redis exists? If it's blacklisted, we respond your token is expired, right? Exactly, shoots them, but this is not. I mean, sessions are dealing with sessions is very difficult as well, right? That's why I would always advise against using sessions, right? Problems with sessions, and especially storing them in a database, is that is a massive. That's a complete. That is, first of all, doesn't provide any performance benefits. You don't want to be storing and checking the database every single time, but there is, right? Exactly. So I see no reason ever, if you have an ability to use JVT, to not use it, right? But either way, right? You need to check for this, right? You need to check if the token is blacklisted, right? Anyway, like you said yourself, you don't need to do this for your everyday Hello World app, but if you care about security, and security is paramount, like even Programmer Network, as I built the whole platform in this stream, security was always top one priority, right? Do you check on that? No, absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. No. But I can show you. If you want more details. Let's just finish this and then we get back to that. Then I'll show you how I'm doing it. I do not have a strategy for that. I mean, the only strategy you really have for extending is implementing some sort of a refresh token. You can implement some sort of token refreshing, right? Like you can say before X period of time, before the token expires, refresh, whatever. And that's very easy. We could probably implement that in 20 minutes. I didn't implement that in Programmer Network and in my other projects simply because I don't find it important enough. The only thing that can suck, and I have experienced that a couple of times, is that imagine you are writing a post. Imagine you don't have any offline support for your UI app, so you're not using any service workers or any caching capabilities like hard caching in the browser. You write your whole post, you click publish, your token is expired, boom, the app crashes, you lose your content that you just wrote, right? But of course you can mitigate that in a different way by implementing some offline support. But the only strategy I know there is implementing a refresh token concept. That's the only thing. And that's what Propel Auth, that's what Auth0, that's what all of the SaaS authorization services are doing. They are all implementing a refresh token concept, right? Okay, so this is good. All right, so let's go back to the UI and let's let's do something, right? I want to generate some basic UI here. So when you come to this page, let's maybe, how the hell am I going to do that? Let's use the composer, because I actually don't know what else I want here. So let's use a composer and say, generate some basic, nice landing page for this view that will showcase the user when logged in and logged out. I'm using Tailwind CSS, as you can see, so make something nice. I actually haven't made up my mind yet about the course's content in this sense, like what do I want to be in there. But let's just try to have a good start like this, and then we'll see where we land. I actually and genuinely don't know. The UX of every app on the internet is the hardest challenge that there is, right? Writing code is easy. Writing stuff that's intuitive and easy navigatable is hard. I see. Okay, let's see. That's not a terrible start. I actually don't care about the UI because this course is not about building a full-fledged apps. It's about teaching shit tons of different concepts. And I cannot get stuck on UI and stuff like that, right? Maybe, who knows, if my course, it's my first Udemy course ever, so if it does well, I might do a bunch of other courses about various subjects, but for now, I just don't have the time to do this. I'd just like something that showcases the user information when the user is logged in, and that just shows some sort of login when user is not logged. I need something simpler. And then I think we're almost done there. Then I'll figure out over time, or maybe get some feedback from you guys what would be cool. Yeah, this is maybe something like this. Let's take a look. Yeah, just something that showcases the basic concepts. Let's see, users. Yeah, first name, full name, null, beautiful. Password, yeah, we can't deliver the password to the UI, whatever, right? Okay, cool. And then let's say add a logout button somewhere. That's going to be perfect start. It's going to be a perfect boilerplate, because this is basically what you need. You need to be able to have a way to log in, blah, blah, blah. And then what you're going to build as a user is totally up to you, right? So I just want to deliver that sort of experience, right? Okay. All right. So, and then what I'm actually going to do now, because let's go to the API. Where's my logout? It's here. So let's go to login. And over here, we're going to do the same. We're going to say app post logout, and we're going to just call this controller. So there's really no schema. There's nothing. It's not getting any data nor responding with any data, right? If we take a look at the logout. What the hell? Yeah, if we take a look at this. Ah, shit. What? Ah, I'm not exporting it. I see. Okay. All right, so if we take a look at it again, yeah, we can see that it really just responds with status 200, and then it sends nothing, right? So we don't need... And now if we actually go ahead to our Swagger spec, hopefully it's still opened. We should see it somewhere. It's here. It's under the default, so we're missing the tag. So let's add a tag here. So we're gonna say yeah, right. So now it should be. Let's take a look at it again. Or nah, that's wrong. We need to say schema tags, isn't it like this? I believe it is. Oh shit, and we're missing a comma here. I don't know actually why it allows that. Jesus Christ, man. All right, that should be good. All right, let's take a look at that. So we have auth, and it should be capital A. So it falls under the same namespace. So here it is, API auth logout. Okay, cool. So now if we regenerate the client-side library, right? That's the beauty of generating it from your spec. So you save a lot of time. Now pretty much here in the UI, right? It's very simple. We'll just say on click, just implicit return, and we're gonna say was auth service logout, right? We need to import this, but it should really be there, hopefully. And it's a little bit weird that I'm not getting any types here. Let me see why. Yeah, I don't actually see the logout here. What the hell? Let's see why. That's not good. I mean, we did generate a spec. Let's try again. So that all has been fine. Let me maybe just reload the window. I don't think it's that, but sometimes it can lag a bit. API auth. Oh, I see. So it is there, but I'm missing some tags or something. Let's see, what the hell do I have here? Maybe this operation ID. Yeah, that's what I'm missing. Yeah, you need this operation ID in order for this to work. So we're gonna say logout here. We're gonna regenerate this, run this Docker container again, and then hopefully now, if we go to the UI, we'll be able to understand the logout. If we command click on it now, bam, there we go, it's there. Super, okay. And obviously now the UI is not smart enough yet, so when we click it, we'll need to refresh, and then I guess it's showing a spinner or something. Let's see, it's probably farting out a bit something. Let's see what it's happening. So it's getting a 500, which is fine. Actually, that's not really fine, right? 500 is a little bit too aggressive. We should be getting 401 here, right? So let's go to our decorators. And that's kind of, yeah, that's what do you mean you don't seem to be calling endpoints? Can you elaborate a bit? Yeah, this is a little bit aggressive. This should really be returning 401 or 403. Probably 401, right? So we need to have some sort of error handler, right? That's gonna get this thing and react to it and return 401, because 500 is misleading, right? So what we can also do somewhere in our setup here is we're gonna say setup error handlers TS, something like that, right? And if I actually go to my, I think I've done an awesome work there, which of course I'm gonna use it. Setup error handlers, beautiful. We have a lot of stuff that's very important here. I can go through it quickly if needed. Of course, we don't need all of this here, but there are certain things that you have to react on. SIGINT, reacting to this and gracefully killing the app, uncaught exception, and unhandled rejections, right? So we need, and then this is how we set up the error handler. I have a bunch of other things here, but actually this is super nice. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna smack it in here, and I'm gonna remove a bunch of stuff. So we actually, if I go here, shut down gracefully. Yeah, we have the sequelize. Yeah, fuck that. We have app close and process exit. So that's really what we're gonna need there. So I'm actually going to go here and then I'll explain. So I'll do this. I'll remove a bunch of this crap. I'll remove all of this. This is sequelize stuff, ORM stuff, and I'm not using sequelize here. I'll get rid of this. And that, I guess. There is a call. There is a call, actually. It's just we're generating the client-side library using the OpenSpec API generator, right? The call did happen. I'll show you in a moment. There is a call for sure, 100%. 100%. Just give me a second and then I'll show you. Yeah, that's so fucking weird, man. What's up with these types? I'll need to fix that before I start recording this course. Fletcher CEO. I mean, cool. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that's a question or a statement, man. But I mean, if you say so, then it's great. I trust you. If you say so, then sure. Python is a great language for certain things, just like any other language is great for certain things, right? Let me just clean this up. He's a bot, most likely. Okay, because I don't know. That seems to be a statement, not a question. Yeah, it's definitely a cool story. I like it. It's a beautiful story he shared with us here. It's very great. Very great story. Very, very good. Very good. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna actually import this bad boy now. So if we go to our, not decorators, if I go to my app, right? I'm gonna say set up error handlers. Yeah, I'm gonna import it like this. And we should definitely take a look at the logs. Is our API still running? It is. Let's actually give it a good old refresh. Great. Okay, so we have a basic error handler stuff now. This is just like if you ever wrote some Express or Go or any other languages, really. It's gonna bubble up this to this last function and it's gonna handle it here. We actually don't need this, but what I need it for something else. So I'm gonna actually, give me a second. So what I'm actually going to do here, I'm gonna print this error. And actually, ironically here, I don't know how come we're still logged in. I don't think that the cookie is in fact there. Yeah, so there's... Actually, we're not logged in. And the exception handler itself now, it's kind of making, failing us a little bit because, but more on that in a second. So what do we have? We have sig kill uncaught exception, exactly, and we're logging that to our logging, obviously, system. No, I mean, I generally advise people not to use an ORM, right? So for example, for this course that I'm recording, I'm using Knex.js. And Knex.js is awesome. In fact, actually, I would even go as far and say start with just plain Postgres, right? I know that a lot of, especially beginners, are not very happy with that, right? So I had to find that I have to go with a little bit, just a tiny bit of convenience, right? But fundamentally, writing plain SQL is easy, and everybody should learn it, right? Closest to plain SQL is something like Knex.js, which is basically just a query builder. Yeah, I'm not so sure, right? I'm not so. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that because it doesn't necessarily have to play too well with TypeScript. I think the initial assumption of how things should work is making some tools feel not good enough. For your everyday CRUD thing, it actually doesn't really matter. You can. The thing is, let me as a technical lead, as somebody who runs a team and makes technical decisions every single day, let me tell you one of the things that people often undermine, right? The biggest problem when you add a new technology to the team, right, is not the technology itself. It's not about performance, it's not about types, etc., right? It's about two things. Of course, well, to some degree, it is about types, it is about developer experience, and it's about learning curve, right? Whenever you add these types of things, such as Prism.js, Sequelize.js, or any other ORM, right? You introduce another layer that has to be maintained, right? And let's face it, right? All of these tools, when you go to their websites, they promise wonderlands, they promise wonders, and they're perfect, and they solve all of your problems. we all know people who use these tools in production that that's not true, right? We're going to take a look at that as well. Thank you, Shootsdem. We actually, I think I have considered this guy as well too. But anyway, fundamentally, right, when I'm making decisions as a technical lead, of course, with my own team, I'm not making them on my own. I'm taking many considerations into it. So one of the most important things for me is how mature is the tool I'm choosing, right? For example, Next.js is a very old thing, and it has been around. Let's go to their GitHub. It has been around for many years. So as you can see, almost a decade, right? Old. It's fairly stable. It's used by many people, and yes, of course, again, there's no perfect solution. None of these things you pick are perfect. Every single one of these guys is going to have some downsides, right? And you need to, as a technical decision maker, you need to be aware of what these are. When it comes to ORMs or query builders, for me, I really care about maybe one thing the most. That's migrations, right? If a tool offers nice migrations, it's good enough for me. Each one of these tools actually offers a solid migration scenario, which is underneath uses the same library and it does it in the same way, right? For this specific course, I went with Next.js mainly because of this, right? Because when you start, this course is called Infrastructure for Startups, right? Which means it has to be also very agile and very, it has to have low friction. And when I say low friction, it has to be easy, sufficiently easy so you can quickly build an MVP and fail, right? So of course there's so many of these tools and they're coming out every year, and we could discuss this for 10 hours. Which one is better? Which one is worse? Which one does this good and well? I think that this was closest to me for this course that made sense because it's closest to writing native Postgres, right? Every other alternative requires extra learning. The course is going to be on Udemy, so the course is going to be uploaded to Udemy when it's done. It's still not. It's relatively far from being done, but I'm working on it. But anyway, no matter what, when you're making a technical decision, I'm not suggesting go with this or that. Whenever you're making a technical decision, ensure that you make this decision according to all the variables around it. Who are the people that are going to be using it? How there are many other variables than what, let's say, community says, what influencers say, etc., right? So that's kind of, I guess, my main point. Okay, so this is the problem now. So let's actually comment this out. We'll actually discuss this. I actually seen this. I've never used it, but it popped up during my research. Okay, so if I take a look at my logs now, my API logs here, let's see. Actually, is there any logs really? That's a bit weird. Okay. Oh, the request is pending. I see. So we messed something up. Let me actually just close a few of these things, because I've used it in production. That's amazing, Shootsdem. Maybe, I mean, yeah, maybe we can even try it. You do not have access. Error. Okay, this is perfect. Okay, so let's just finalize this. I'm sorry, I kind of went too much with the explanation there. So what I'm going to do, this is great, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to go to our decorator, and instead of responding with a message like this, what we can actually throw instead is some constant, right? So I don't know, like something that we can match against easier. So we can have a constant in here, call it not authenticated, and then just say not authenticated, right? And then we can throw that, right? No, that's not what I want. Shut the fuck up. Okay. And then over here, we can say, hey, in the error handler, we can say if error message is not authenticated, respond with, and I actually don't have the send error here. Why is it using that? So I'm going to say status 401 dot send, something like that, right? So now if we get back over here, are we actually, and let's print the error again, dot message. That's a little bit weird. I would expect this to work. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so error, oh, what? Oh, we didn't import this most likely, did we? Yeah, exactly. So that's the problem. Sorry. AI is hallucinating a little bit there. It's fine. So let's go set up decorators here. Let's put this bad boy in some sort of a constant file, right? So yeah, here we have some constants. Is this a way to organize your constant files? Absolutely not. But again, this is not right. So let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? So there's many ways to organize these files as the project gets bigger. For now, that's not the case. So let's import that here. And then let's go to our error handler and import it here as well. I don't know what are you doing, but whatever. Let's remove this. And otherwise, so now we are handling individual errors. And actually, yeah, so yeah, again, this can be done in many ways, but let's actually get rid of that. I'll actually move this inside of here. And yeah, that should all right, good. I thought I'm hallucinating myself. I'm not. Okay, good. All right, this is cool. Okay, so this should suffice. This should give me what I want. So here's the 401, right? That's great. That's good now. And can you guide us? How can I learn how to organize projects like folder namings, and how should I separate concerns and such? That's a very vague question. I'm sorry. I mean, of course I can, but I cannot. It's going to take me 25 minutes. Like it's a very. That's like, it's a very general question, right? I cannot do that now because I would be talking about structure. That's like another YouTube video, right? I mean, yeah, you will be able to see how I at least organize my projects when I release this stuff. It's just there's so many organizational patterns out there and so many things we can talk about that I'm afraid it would take very long time to discuss all of that, right? I would be a little bit careful about clean architecture, right? That's not really an organizational pattern. That's a little bit different pattern, right? And clean architecture can be implemented in so many different ways. I would be very, very careful going there right now, to be honest. Clean architecture is a concept that exists for a couple of decades now, and there are many ways to implement it, and there are many abstractions you can choose to get into, right? And I would say be careful about it because it's very misleading and it's very obsolete as well. The biggest problem with things such as clean architecture, right? That clean architecture can be explained like any other over-architecting stuff. It can be explained literally like this. You have n number of different layers of things, right? And then when I say clean architecture, be careful about it, I mean that there's so many variants on how you can implement it, right? that you really need to be careful about it, right? You have, when in reality, actually, you need one or two abstractions in most projects, right? You have these lunatics who are swearing by this onion type of pattern, by this clean architecture. They will segregate their project into so many abstractions that it's impossible to do any work. Like good example of this is nestjs, right? I can give you hundreds of different examples, but good example of these types of things is that you take inherently simple thing and then you make it incredibly complex, right? So for example, when we think about APIs, right, which is what mostly people are asking here about, an API really has a router that executes some function controller, right? And really, your attempt always is to try to keep this as simple as possible. So you can have a service of some sort or whatever, but really what you don't want to have is 15 abstractions until this controller is called, right? Some people think, especially more junior people think, wow, this is so great because it's complex, right? I'm so clever, I'm so smart because I can write 15 functions that call each other, right? But don't do that. Go programming language is a great example of amazing simplicity. Of course, that language has made some mistakes and it has taken simplicity way too harsh, and now it's suffering in some areas of its design. But when you take a look at the average API, for example, in a Go programming language, it's really, in most cases, you have a router and some function, some validation, and that's it, right? So clean architecture is dangerous because those lunatics or extreme people who take it too far, they have very little empathy towards other people that have to maintain that garbage, right? Because in most cases, it ends up being garbage and it provides no value. The biggest problem of things such as clean architecture is that it's based on a premise that can predict the future. It's like, but what if one day we completely replace Postgres with, Mongo? But when the fuck does this happen, right? So you take fundamentally, you make shit tons of assumptions about the project up front, basing it on what if. So you prematurely do it, so you prematurely optimize it so much, these things never happen, and then people who read this crap, they're wondering, why the hell did we ever need these abstractions? Because keep in mind, that's the problem with object-oriented programming. That is the problem of clean architecture, is that you're making assumptions that one day some radical thing might happen, and then because of that, you need all of these abstractions because, dependency injection. Well, yeah, we can just inject a different dependency. It's like, but just go through your own projects, go through the projects that you work. When the hell did you, after 5 years of development, replace the entire database fully? I've never seen that in 20 years of my professional experience, right? I've never seen that a company that's using Postgres for 10 years, just one day some insane, crazy CTO comes and says, yeah, let's nuke Postgres for the sake of it's like nobody does this, right? So the entire premise of many of these patterns is just flawed from the very beginning. Like, you cannot predict future, right? So of course you should write few abstractions to support the future, but you can. It's a huge problem, man, because building APIs is something that anyone should be able to do, right? It's really, really rare, right? And also doing the sequel to Postgres migration is also a lot easier, right? Like, Postgres and MySQL are so similar. I mean, Postgres is, you could say, a derivative of MySQL, right? So that is not uncommon to hear. But still, I don't think that 6 different migrations would have helped you guys. Your migration was done in a very different way, right? Very different way. Am I? Give me 1 second. Let me just find. Nah. Give me 2 seconds. All right, let's do that. Okay, let's go on. Cool. So yeah, so this crap works. This use query is doing some strange stuff now. It's either we can see that it's how can I tell to use queries like to shut up and just do it once. So refresh interval. I don't want it to refresh. I just want it to query one. Retry. Can I do this? Yeah, exactly. So for now, I just want that. Try again. Okay. Okay, so cool. So that's great. We're almost there. And if there's an error, this is a little bit too aggressive. I think I don't actually want this. So if the user is not logged in, we probably want to show something else. So let's take a look at the error. So status is an error. Data user status error. Let's print this error. Oh, thank you very much for the subs, guys, and follows and stuff. Very much appreciate it. I'm sorry, I'm just focused, so it's a little bit tough sometimes to see it, but thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And yeah, so let's get over here and let's say if status is pending. So let's say here if status is an error, and yeah, I mean we can do. That's the problem when making a course, man. And I'm a perfectionist. There's so many things you can include, and knowing the limit where you should say enough is right. Because I'm thinking about this error handling. There's 7 billion things we can do. Right, both API and the UI. It's just so hard. That's the hardest thing for me, to be very frank with you. It's just figuring out where to stop. That is weird. Status is 401. Yeah. Yeah, now it's farting out because... Wait a minute. Axios error is not... I didn't import that. Sorry. My bad. Okay. So where is a response? George. What's up, man? I'm just continuing with my course, just trying to build stuff. Yeah, I mean, these things can infinitely go. I mean, there's always so much to say and share about all of these concepts. And when you're trying to build a course that's called Infrastructure for Startups that goes from start to end, you know, it's always so dangerous because you can record like 100 hours of things that nobody will ever watch, right? So it's just, that is so far that is the toughest part, is like where to start and stop. What is the sufficient amount of content for a certain section, so people don't say, oh, this is unclear, or why didn't you do this, right? Because that is the problem. You're going to get a bunch of different type of personas sharing different type of feedback. So that's always very difficult, right? All right, so this is great, right? So we have this now, and let's just tell the composer here. Composer, let's just say, let's turn this into a less aggressive error, and maybe instead show a nice UI for the user to log in. Alternatively, let's maybe just redirect a user to API/login, which does exist, and asks the user to authorize. I think that's not a terrible idea, right? Yeah, this is gonna programmatically do it. Ooh. And it's actually not API. It is API. What is it? Localhost API. Sorry. UI login, right? I mean, thank you very much. That's good to hear. I mean, it's good to hear some feedback. That's why I'm also streaming it. But thank you. That sounds great. I think I do that. And again, the only downside of me doing it is that it's just Oh, is this barcode is here? Oh my God. It's just, yeah, it's just, there's always so much stuff to add that you need to know where to stop. Sign in. Okay, so let's fix a few of these things and we should be fine with this. What's up, my friend? I haven't seen you in a long time, but I haven't streamed in a long time as well, so. Where is it? Auth view, right? Yeah, so if we go here and this is successful, then we just say window location href. Is your thing still going on? Do you still have your project? There we go. Okay, nice. Got a new project. You need to share it with me, man. You need to share it. Just give me 1 second. Let me go to, where is this user controller? Yeah. So over here we have one little tiny issue, right? And here we actually want to omit the password. So there's again, there's many ways again to do this. So that is a little bit awful thing, right? We can of course, there are many ways to omit something, right? So for example, one of the probably best ways to do that for us here is to always ensure that the password is not in the schema. So if we take a look at this, we can see that this user schema, we're using this type box think inference. So we create a schema like this, then we that this is going to generate a JSON schema, and then this is going to getting the user type from the JSON schema. So we use this static, and then we give it the schema, and then you can see our user has the same fields as this JSON schema. This is awesome because the hardest thing when you're using any JSON schema in this context, and another JSON validator, is that you have JSON representation of your validation of your data, but then you also need somehow to get the types and interfaces and whatnot for other parts of code. And the best way I found in the official Fastify's documentation is to use something like typebox, where you can actually infer the types from the user schema. You can see one of the problems whatsoever here is that we need to omit the password in here, right? So we need to somehow have this password either not here or remove it programmatically or in certain cases, right? And the biggest problem of that, I believe, is that I need to check, do I need the password? But actually, maybe I can just omit the password from the schema here. Like, do I need this? Because we are using this only for the response. We're not using this as the body. So actually, we can just omit the password from here, and the password should be gone from our payload over here. Fastify barcode is in my opinion, best thing that happened to Node.js in many years. It's a simple Node.js framework or a library, depending how you look at it, built by Matteo Collina. Matteo Collina is, Google it, yeah. Matteo Collina is one of the Node.js's, he's a member of Node.js committee. So he also has a new product that he's built. This is Matteo Collina, and he's now building his own platform for hosting Node.js apps. It's this one. It's called Platformatic. He actually often streams here, as you can see. So take a look at this. And this guy is the creator of Fastify as well. Can you show the OpenSpec? Yeah, I can show that. Yes, sure. OpenSpec generator. Alrighty, so one of you is asking about the OpenSpec API generator. So essentially, so how can we generate? So this is the problem that this tool solves. We have some API that's documented by OpenSpec API, and we would like to generate the client side, let's say Axios or whatever HTTP library you're using in the browser. We would like to generate the full client from the spec on the client side without needing to write these services manually. And this is where this OpenSpec API generator comes from. This is going to be part of my infrastructure for startups course, of course, but I'm going to show you now as the question was raised in the chat here in Twitch. So essentially, if we go to the generators, these are all the generators that are publicly now available built by community, and I'm using TypeScript Axios generator, right? And this TypeScript Axios generator, it will generate my client-side HTTP library. If we take a look at my API code here, if we go to package.json, actually I believe that's in my UI here, stuff we're building for the course. You can see that I'm running a Docker run. So I'm running a Docker container. I'm providing it some paths here, so I'm giving it the location where I want the spec to be generated. And then I'm giving it the location of my open API spec JSON. This open spec JSON file is generated by my Fastify. I'm using Fastify Swagger module. So Fastify supports this as a first-class citizen, meaning, and this is one of the best things about Fastify by far, because Fastify is using another JSON validator, AJV JSON schema, to validate the endpoints, you know, query parameters, URL parameters, body response. This Fastify Swagger is using the JSON schema to generate the spec. So essentially, you never write the OpenSpec API manually. You get it for free. What I'm doing here in my API, if we go to the server somewhere, you can see, and this is just in development, I call this generate swagger JSON function. That's going to write the file, local file in my API. It's going to write this OpenSpec. I don't know if it's actually generated here. It should be. It's here, right? So this is the spec. And every time, of course, I save, I create a new endpoint, I update it, it's going to do this. And then I feed this. So this file is then given to this Docker command over here. And I'm saying, hey, this G stands for a generator, so use TypeScript Axios generator, and then output this generated HTTP client inside of SRC services Open API generator inside of my frontend project. If we take a look at that, so if we take a look at the SRC services and OpenSpec API generator, you can see that it generated a bunch of files. This is typically, let's call them immutable in a sense. You should never touch these, or you should never touch this code manually. So you should never update this code manually. This is where it generates all of your stuff. And you can see here what you do. You import the code from the generator, you import this, and then it's going to generate each one of these classes corresponding to your API. So you can see if I go to my API, I really have only two resources here. I have the auth and user. So you can see it has built two corresponding classes, user API and auth API. And then you can see, like, if I do auth service, you can see all of this is the stuff I have from in my backend, in my Fastify API. And the great thing about it is that it also carries the types. So you can see if I go to login, create user request, it knows that there's an email and a password, right? So this is really powerful because you really never have to write these client-side things manually again. You simply focus on building your API. When your API is stable, when you have provided where you have validated with the AJV, you then run this Docker container, and then in your UI you can just start calling your endpoints, right? And yeah, so that's basically it. It's a combination of Fastify Swagger and then Open API generator. Of course, you will choose your own generator in here. You can see there, you can generate this from many other languages, right? So Android, Bash, Rust, Golang, JavaScript, PHP, Scala, Clojure, whatnot, right? So this generator has nothing to do. It has nothing to do necessarily with the nodejs or anything like that. It's agnostic of the language. It exists for all languages out there as long as the generator exists. And of course, you can create your own generator. You can create your own custom generator. Like, imagine your team has a very specific way how you build your HTTP clients. You can build your own custom generator for this. Anyway, I hope that helps. Let me stop. Yeah. I still work on programming network for sure. Yeah, definitely. I definitely do. I mean, I will never stop working on programming network. It's just I don't have much time, you know, kids and wife and work and stuff. But I'm still around, and I mean, I'm recording this course for Udemy to get some people to sign up on programmer network, right? So actually, thank you very much for mentioning it. I always forget. I suck a lot at advertising this. So let me just smack it on top. And did you get the error? Did you click on the response? What is the error? Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay, give me 2 seconds. Fuck yeah. Let's actually take a look at my Grafana for Programmer Network. Give me a second. Let me go to cloud. Let's see if I get something in the error logs. Let me just read a question here. 1 second. Hi, Alex. I'm a junior developer. Working on an app without tests. In my free time, I'm implementing integration tests with Playwright proposal. Shit, did I actually copy the whole thing? It doesn't seem so. What the fuck is happening? I'm implementing integration testing with Playwright to propose it later. I have some doubts, like what the third parties should be tested, or if it's better to use database or monkey. Where can I find answers to these questions? I'm a junior developer working on an app without tests. In my free time, I'm implementing integration testing with Playwright to propose it later. Some doubts, like whether third parties here should be tested or if it's better to use the database or mock. Yeah, I mean, I can just quickly give you an answer here. Of course, you're not going to test third-party services, right? You're hopefully paying for these services because you trust them, right? But you need to test if you're going to test them at all, how you're going to test the part of the system that's using these services, and is it yielding the results that you're expecting, right? So testing is not some sort of testing is a very simple concept, right? Even though people try to make it more complicated than it is, testing is really about, I can maybe explain testing in 1 minute in the most efficient way. Number one, you should test parts of the system that are critical and that you know that are either prone to breaking, or if they break, they have a high stake in your product. So first, this is my experience, you should not test everything. You can test, actually today, that's maybe questionable. I should challenge my own statement here, because writing tests today, it's so cheap. You can generate 50 tests in 20 seconds using AI, right? So today, it's not very justifiable to not write tests, because you will not write them yourself anyway. But when it comes to testing systems, these questions cannot be raised in a vague way, right? Like there's no correct or incorrect way to test systems. Every system is different, and it has certain parts of it like that suck. So for example, there's no code base on Earth that I've seen in 2 decades that doesn't suck in some shape or form. There's some pieces of code that were written long ago with a limited amount of people, limited amount of time, limited amount of domain knowledge, etc., etc. And sometimes these parts of systems, right, have to 2 seconds. So I personally hate writing end-to-end tests. I'm not a fan of those because they take very long time to write. They're very convoluted. They require, right. I like unit testing the most because it's cheap, it's almost free, and it takes very little time. And yeah, I mean, unless you have some sort of a tester team, people who are literally dedicating to using these end-to-end solutions, you're gonna have a very hard time maintaining that, because it takes a long time to actually first set up the proper end-to-end testing solution, and then also to maintain it. Because again, it's so difficult to simulate all of these things in the browsers, like find this element by this ID, or even in the API, right? So yeah, I would need more context to understand your problem, but fundamentally, yeah, I don't know, fundamentally, and actually, sorry, before I do this, let me just take a look at your error. Don't write tests vaguely, right? Tests do not serve, tests do not work like that, right? you first have to identify what it is that in your system is fragile to breaking, and then maybe what are the pieces that you want to understand better, and maybe start testing those first. And always start with unit tests, right? So once you have these covered, then you can maybe start with something more complex. Yeah. Let me just do one thing. So if I go to WAF here, nah, shit, that's wrong. Just 2 seconds. Just need to. I need to whitelist myself in this firewall. What do you think about mid developers applying for senior? A lot of people fake their way into this industry, right? Senior and junior and expert and 10x is really a matter of other people's perception of you and your way to sell yourself, right? Cloudflare provides it for free. Cloudflare provides it for free. When it comes to titles, right? Sorry, so many interesting remarks today. When it comes to titles, right? Junior, senior, tech lead, God mode, whatever, right? This really translates into one or two things. Can you prove that you are any of that? And do others believe that you are what you are saying you are, right? Well, fuck, that's a strange sentence, right? So, because as I said many times when I was streaming more actively, each one of us is a product, right? I think one of the probably strangest things that I find amongst people, developers included, Leo, my friend, good evening, is one fundamental misunderstanding of reality, right? Many people still live in some sort of a fairy tale, whatever. As I said many times, right, you are a product, right? Your physical appearance, your mental appearance, your every movement when you go somewhere is a part of an interview, right? So when you're interviewing, everything about you is evaluated directly or indirectly, implicitly or explicitly. For example, if a handsome guy, girl shows up, that is evaluated implicitly, right? I'm sorry if somebody's gonna get offended. I'm trying to provide value here, not to give you some fairy light. So if you're fat, for example, and there's another person that just looks better, that's also taken into consideration. Is this evil, not evil, fair, unfair, whatever? Who cares? I'm not sharing these things how the world should be. I'm just saying how it is, right? So when it comes to any of these perceptions created about hiring, right? Everything is evaluated. Don't deceive yourself, right? So that's why I tell to people, go train, run, activate yourself. Your physical appearance is very important because that's the first impression you leave. When you see somebody who's fit, who is stable, who has a way of expressing themselves, they instantly, indirectly show some sort of commitment to life, to care, to self-care, etc., right? So it's same applies here, right? To these things like titles, right? Your title is only worth if you can prove your worth, right? I work as a tech lead, not because I think that I'm a tech lead. It's because somebody is willing to pay me salary for that and allow me to lead. So somebody was willing to give me a chance and their trust that I'm gonna perform at that role, right? So there's many things when it comes to these things which are people will not tell you because people today are afraid to speak about anything and everything because, you know, there's always somebody who is going to get offended by something, and I'm sorry if somebody got offended. That's of course not my intention, but everything is really can be broken down again into two buckets: your own perception of yourself and perception of others relative to you. If you can prove that your self-perception is true to others, then you can say that you are a 10x developer, right? If you can go and prove that that's what you are, right? So that's really how it is. There is really no other way around it. I have interviewed people who suck and who would get senior jobs, and I have interviewed people as well who were amazing developers, but they sucked at selling themselves, right? You need to sell yourself. If you don't, somebody else will, right? That is very, very, very much true, and that's just the reality. Reality can suck, but that's what it is. All right, I'm just looking at this by Barcode. He sent his site. I like it, Barcode. It's very nice, man. It's very nice. I can't now. I need to finish this. Let's leave it open. Then if I have the time, I'll do it. I promise. But let me just take a look at your error very quickly, because yeah, there's so many interesting remarks. It's very hard to stay on top. All right. Fuck, there's no API logs. So why am I not getting logs? That's super weird, man. Yeah, so the error... yeah, because it is a handled error, right? My pleasure, man. I mean, please, again, I just want to say what I know from experience is true. It's not my opinion. I work from the office every single day for 17 years almost, right? So I am with the people, I interview them, I run my team, I spend time with my colleagues. I know how people think, I can see it from their emotion. And all of these perceptions of oneself and perceptions of you can feel that when you're with the people, right? And there is really no better investment in life and cheaper investment in life than investing in your own health, right? My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Just, again, if you can prove what you say that you are, then that's what you, in fact, are, right? So that's just how it is. Okay, anyway, fuck, I have no actually idea. I need to fix this, but I'm not getting this. Okay, I need to, yeah, let me just close that. Let me close that. Let me close that. Close that. Yeah, let's get back here. Just for a few minutes, and then that should work. All right. So what do we have? Shit, we actually do have some tests here. Do they still run though? Request user email. User controller. Interesting. But okay, more on that maybe some other time. What did I want to finish here? Shit. Yeah, this thing. Yeah, exactly. I see. All right. So actually, let's get rid of that. This was just... And actually, let me just do this. That was just for testing. And what I'm actually going to do... I'm actually going to leave that thing there just as a basic test. I will leave this as well. Yeah, I'll actually, that's fine. Is there any other place where we have a full name? Yeah, there is. So what I'm actually going to do, and let's take a look at our database very quickly here. I don't think that this is almost like a virtual property, right? So let's take a look at our Postgres user table. And actually, fuck, I do have a full name. No. Yeah, I do have a full name. That's weird. Okay. Yeah, but let's we will not have that. It doesn't actually matter. So let's nuke some of these occurrences of that. Get full name, and yeah, we'll need to generate. Yeah, let's do something like new composer. Actually, no, it's fine. It's fine. I wanted to nuke the full name, but it's okay. So let's refresh this thing now. We have first name, last name, and email, right? So I think that's sufficient, almost. Let's go to the UI. And this is not really mandatory. I mean, we could make it, but I'm not going to do it. So And let's do something like this. And then let's nuke this. Yeah, okay, cool. So now basically that basic stuff works, right? You could say. I'll need to, of course, before I record this part of the course at least, I'll need to yeah. But one of the things that I haven't even actually, one of the core functionalities that I haven't finished yet is the provisioner. So essentially, the idea here will be it is getting there. Is that we're gonna do all of the work, right? Actually, I think I have it here. Maybe I can showcase it, right? So this is really the plan. So the course should cover the planning, coding, building, testing, releasing, deploying, operating, and monitoring, right? That's why I've added all of these things like Prometheus and Port Trainer and Grafana, right? Traffic and all of these things, and also pre-built all of these dashboards, right? So this is our traffic. This is our Redis, which actually doesn't work now. This is monitoring our Postgres, our system level stuff, Fastify logs, which actually do work here. That's good. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. So I think the core thing that's remaining before I can actually just deploy this to Hetzner or DigitalOcean or anywhere is finalizing the provisioner. And the provisioner basically is Terraform. If you don't know, Terraform is a tool that serves infrastructure as code. And with Terraform, we're going to be essentially deploying. So the course initially is going to use Terraform Hetzner. So we're going to use the Hetzner provider. And essentially, obviously, this is going to be recorded, but we're going to deploy. And that's where Programmer Network infrastructure. PJ, hey, buddy, good to see you again. I'm good, man. How are you? So this is where Programmer Network is deployed now, and I'm going to use Hetzner to also for the sake of, actually you can see that I've already created a Udemy course here. So this where we're going to be deploying it. But then eventually I'm also going to do DigitalOcean provider, right? And then we're going to do this as well, and then hopefully many more. But let me just read. Hi there, remember a few months ago you did a hilarious impression of Primogen. It was honestly one of the funniest moments I've ever seen on Twitch. Any chance you would up for doing it again? I think it could be. Yeah, but I don't know what I mean, I've never watched that guy. What did I do? Can you remind me? Primogen is a Vim guy, right? So what did I do? Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't remember that. I mean, I can be a troll sometimes as well. Give me just 2 seconds. One moment. All right. Okay, so, but let's see now at this point in time. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to, and this I will do off stream. And then I'll probably, I mean, before I start recording, I will have to make this obviously nicer and stuff. Right now is just how it is. Actually, let me just, but this is just the plain stuff that works now. Okay, and then auth service logout. So yeah, we'll need to, let's actually come somewhere over here. And let's say const handle logout. And then we'll go over there, call this. And we probably want to wait for this, right? Because it is an async thing. And then we want to try and catch that, right? Yeah. And then here we probably want some Snail. Hey buddy, you good? Yeah, man, I haven't been around. I haven't been streaming much. Yeah, I've been just focusing on some other things, man. How are you doing? How is life? All right, so let's take a look at that. That should be fine. We should be able to do this and then log out. Okay, cool. So that basic stuff works, right? Now it's really just about smacking. Now, of course, I need to figure that out how do we want to lift the state for the course, right? So if I go back here, there's so many possibilities there, right? It's like we can use some sort of a flux pattern like Redux, or use some higher level context, right? Use a state, lift a state to the root, right? So there's so many ways, but we'll need a global state somehow, right? So we need a way when you at least log in for this course that we keep the user somewhere, right? So we cache it somewhere in memory, right? So we'll see about that. I'll need to think about what I want for this. Joe Tai, I don't know what this is. Yeah, let me see. I've never heard of this. Let me just see how it looks like. So, I mean, my biggest problem, so this is probably great. Let's actually figure it out together. So one of the fatal mistake that these library creators are making, right, is that they're inventing their own terms, right? Like I understand that this is maybe cool looking, and I understand that an average kid who is maybe starting in the industry likes this. When you introduce some of your own terminology, right, that throws me off and many other senior people, because I don't have the time, nor I find joy in these concepts, right? Like there's it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'm not complaining. It's just when creating these libraries, it's always better to stick to the known terminology, right? Instead of trying to appear or look amazing or cool or whatever. But either way, let's take a look at this. I don't actually care about Next.js. I don't care about any of that. We don't need more terminology in programming, right? We have too much of it already, right? We don't need more of it, and simpler you're able to build a tool that you want others to use, more success you're going to have. Because keep in mind, adoption of technology is the hardest thing in programming, right? It's not building the, like, I'm sure, for example, that there are many awesome tools out there that are better than React and Vue.js and Angular and Redux and all of these things. But that's not how technology works and business world works. Business world is about adoption. Companies that invested millions of dollars into their developers' salaries over the years to build products are not just going to switch to, let's say, Svelte because it's cool. So you need to build tools which are better by a huge margin for community to even for the adoption to even be considered as possibility, right? So when building tools, your best bet is to try to, that's why, for example, Vue.js succeeded to a huge margin. I met Ivan Yu, the creator of Vue.js, in Paris in 2017 on a .js conference. And I spoke about this with him. And the reason why Vue.js had a huge success also back then is because he took the known concepts from React, AngularJS, already frameworks which were very popular, and he kind of merged them together. And it was kind of it was familiar to people to kind of try and use it. Once you start inventing these new cool words, that throws people off, because you need to sell things to people, not the other way around. Like, so yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing new I see here, honestly. I don't understand what the selling point of this is. If it's immutability, I don't actually care about that right now. So what exactly are we getting here? What is the value of this right now? What is different? What is better? So this is immutable, right? So this is creating immutable state, immutable, yeah. Okay, no, I mean, yeah, cool. I mean, I don't know, more power to people who build these things. No, I don't need this. This is, yeah, there's nothing unique about this at all. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't actually know right now. I'll need to generate some UI for this course. I'll need to take a look at that. This I need to solve off stream. So I've done, yeah, so I've finished this pretty much. Yeah, this was some research for the course. And then what do we here? Set up envs. Yeah, that's also mostly done. And then I'm actually not sure at this point now if I want to use service mock. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be using a mock service worker at this point. Probably not. Probably not. So I'm actually going to go most likely and nuke that, unfortunately. It is very useful for testing, so actually, fuck, maybe I should leave it. But I need to kind of... I need to do a better job of including it in the project. Where was it? I think it was in the main. Yeah, here, right. So, do I have some constant for these things? Mock service worker is a way for you to make it easier for your front-end developers to build UIs without needing to depend on the API team, right? One of the most common things you're gonna find in this industry is people bullshitting each other. So, for example, you have a front-end team, you have a back-end team, and then these guys are bullshitting that we are waiting for backend to be finished, right? That always has been a lie, regardless of a mock service worker or not, right? So what you can do, right? You can use mock service worker to mock to actually, because it's using a service worker in the background. So you are in fact sending requests. So what mock service does, and as I said, it's using a service worker in the browser, is essentially just an interceptor of the request, right? So you're gonna send a request to /API users, and then the service worker is gonna say, oh, there's a request to app/users, return some data, right? And we can actually see that if we go to the UI, right? So if we take a look at handlers, for example, so you create a handler like this, right? And then if this endpoint is hit in the browser, you will respond to that, right? Yeah, of course, man, my pleasure. So I need to update this now because I've changed a lot of things, but it's useful because then you can write tests that actually do call these endpoints instead of needing to have an... My pleasure. So that's yeah. So that's why I would use it. There you go. It's a mock service worker. It's very simple. It's very easy to implement. And again, it's using, you will actually do it. So your HTTP library will do a request, and then an interceptor is gonna respond to that request. So it's gonna prevent it to go further. In your case, to the API, right? So in my case, of course, Yeah, and of course, in my case, for this course, I will actually use it now when I think about it. I just need to figure out, you need to figure out your workflow, right? For sure, exactly, definitely. I mean, either way, right? Whenever we talk about these things, it's very hard to not mock things. You can also say that, yeah, this is maybe closer to not mocking, but this is still mocking, right? So it's practically impossible to do these types of things without doing complete end-to-end thing, right? And end-to-end things are often very difficult to set up, especially like in a CI, in your whatever, Jenkins or Circle CI or Travis or GitHub Actions or whatever you're using, of course, right? So these types of things can help a lot. Yeah. Let me actually, do I have some constants in here that, yeah, exactly. So what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to, yeah, I don't actually know. I don't like some of these things, but that's what it is. Let's just say here, fuck, yeah. Let's say constants TS. Let's say, yeah. Do I have some types maybe? So let's actually come here and say types. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say index TS. Let's say export enum environment. Yeah. And yeah, sure. Cool. All right. Is that actually farting out? Failed to register service worker. Very weird. Okay, but it doesn't matter. Let's see what that is. So if process is not development, yeah. Base path, sure. Yeah, that's correct. Cool. Let's just clear the cache maybe, or let's unregister this current service worker. Let's give that a shot. No, okay, let's clear the storage. Why did I zoom in so much? Oh, I see. So there's something wrong with our config. So let's take a look. Is it in Vita config or where is it? I don't remember. Did I configure it? So we have config paths. No, that's not it. Where did I configure it then? Let's find it. So we have Alex, where do you find clients globally except freelancing platforms? Is there any way scouting the market? Wait, sorry, let me read the question. Okay, let me just, well, I mean, no. So again, like you're asking, a lot of you guys are asking very vague questions, right? You cannot ask a question, what stack should I focus on? That question is not serious enough, and the answers that you're getting now are also not really serious enough, right? I have a video on YouTube about that for something, right? But what you should learn depends on one of the things that you guys, some of you guys, have to develop still is a more critical thinking, right? And more engineering thinking. You cannot answer questions plainly. I mean, Leo has, for example, gave you an instant answer without asking a single question. And Leo has given you the answer because that answer fits him. Because he knows Express and React, he thinks that you should do that too, right? And that's not true, right? So what stack you should learn depends on where you live, demographics, job market in your current ecosystem, etc. You cannot just get a plain answer. So when you ask, should I learn Java or JavaScript, whatever, that's your question, right? That depends mainly on where you live, etc. Right? I'm sorry then. I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought that you did. Okay, my bad. Okay. But yeah, going back to this, you should learn some. You should do your research, see the market in your region, and then find what you find. Do companies in your region need Java developers, JavaScript developers, Rust developers, C# developers, whatever? Right? You can do that by using Google Trends, Stack Overflow Trends, right? So you can go to Stack Overflow. You can use LinkedIn, right? So if you go to LinkedIn. If you go here and you say, okay, I live in, you go to jobs and you say, I live in Bangladesh, right? And you say, I live in Bangladesh. Is there C# jobs in Bangladesh, right? You search for C#, there's 74 results. I don't know if that's true. Then you say reactjs, right? There's 159, etc. So you need to do your research, right, etc., before you can come to a conclusion of what you should learn. Exactly. All right, that's cool. And I think the issue now is that yeah, let's try this again. Okay, so that should be fine now, I suppose. No? How am I doing, Reggie? Good, very good, man. How are you doing? So why is the service worker actually no longer working? That makes no sense. All right, let me actually try one thing. Let me go here and let's go to Docker containers and let's restart this container. Bad gateway, let's give it a second. Yeah, it still doesn't like npx init. Did you forget to run npx public dir? Service worker script does not exist at the given path. Ah, shit, I know what the problem is. Yeah, we're missing the UI. Fuck. So we need to somehow ensure that mock service. Yeah, crap, that's not good. Do you have to experience how to see clients? That's very difficult, Bexy, right? So it's very difficult to, the market is very oversaturated by freelancers, and the starting in that field is very tough, right? There's unfortunately no great way to do it. The best way is if you have an existing network of people that can recommend you, etc., etc. But the best way to do that is to be active on social media, on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And yeah, there, unfortunately for that specific thing, I don't have a good solution. I don't have a good answer, I must say. Give me 1 second. Is there some configuration for where I can adjust the URL from which service worker is delivered? In my case, it's trying to serve it from localhost, but in my case, it's localhost/UI. Oh, I see. Really? Okay, I see. So let's take a look at that. A main, a start. Ah, okay. So here, I guess. Let's hope this is correct. It doesn't. Oh shit. URL. Oh, nice. Okay. And then. Give me 1 second. I need to figure this one out. Okay, cool. Did we actually accomplish that? We did, yeah. Let's actually nuke this one, and then we'll attempt this, right? So we'll do this. Save it. Let's get rid of that, and let's see what happens now. Failed to register service worker for scope UI with script. Not really, Bexy, right? I mean, finding work is a matter of multiple things, right? I don't think that there's no webinar, there's no person that's going to tell you how to find clients, right? You need to, again, convince others why they should pay you, right? So you either have to start being a lot cheaper, and then as you get more clients, more references, more work to showcase, then you increase your prices, right? But you need to become competitive sufficient enough so somebody is willing to pay you, especially in a day of AI today, right? So there's no webinar where you're gonna go and somebody's gonna tell you, hey, this is how you find clients. If any of us knew that, we would be getting these clients ourselves, right? So I don't have that. I have a huge network. I have a lot of references. I have a lot of people that follow me on LinkedIn, right? But I just can't just find, a work like that. If I could, I actually would, but I can't, right? Because I'm not a freelancer, so and I also don't seek for it, to be very honest with you. Yeah, this is so weird now. How do you manage your work and personal projects? How do you manage? I mean, I have priorities. My family, my wife, and my kids are my priority, and then this stream is not the priority. So I'm a realistic person. I don't create these unrealistic. One of the biggest things one of the biggest mistakes you can do when it comes to planning is overplan. Plan too much. A lot of tutorials, people will tell you set your goals. Book time stuff. You need to be just. I mean, I'm very. At this point in life, this is not a complaint. It's just a fact. I'm very busy in a sense. I go to work, then I come home, then I'm with my wife and kid, then I go to the gym. Etc. So it's the time is very limited, right? And you have to decide what are your priorities. So for example, if I'm not streaming for 3 months, that means I have other priorities, right? But you have to decide what the priority is. So you can only have, depending on the amount of time you have, especially if you're married or have a partner and children and stuff, then you know that your time is the most valuable resource. And then you have to decide one activity that you want to do and do it well, right? So yeah, I don't set any, basically what I do is I don't set any expectations because I know that I would not be able to sustain them, right? Like I have tried more aggressively to stream on Twitch a year or so ago, and it didn't fulfill my personal necessity, which is basically streaming on Twitch is very fun for me, but apart from that, it's pretty useless, right? I mean, the time I spend helping some of you guys, I just do it because it's fun, but I could be using this time in various other ways, because there's no literal beneficial gain here for a streamer other than just having fun, right? So this is, for example, one of the activities that I will always drop if I have something better to do, simply because besides fun, it's not profitable in any way. And there are many other things in life which are also fun, right? So for example, if this Twitch was yielding some results for me, let's say an extra income or something, then I would probably prioritize it more. But I've tried for a year and it's useless in that sense. Therefore, I don't prioritize it anymore, right? So sometimes you also have to try out things and see how they work. I realize, right, is that Twitch from any other perspective other than being fun is completely useless, right? Because many of you guys here are broke, and I sympathize with that, don't take me wrong. And my initial impression a year ago or so when I started streaming, when I was actually actively streaming, right, was like, okay, like, well, people will chip in a bit, right? $5 here, $5 there, and then we have a community, and, you know, this will make sense. That never really materialized to the level that I wanted. But this is how you do it. You try things out, you poke around, right? And that's just how it is. That's just how it works. Okay, so going back to this, I think the problem here with this is now that my reverse proxy doesn't actually know how to, or my API in this context doesn't know how to serve this. So that is the problem. So actually, for now, I'll just return here. All right, cool. So that should be fine. All right, so yeah, I don't know. I think this is fine. This stuff works now. The only kind of thing now with the service worker in development, of course, is that I need to figure out how to serve this file. Give me 2 seconds. All right, let's just chat a little bit. Let's just chat a little bit. Give me 2 seconds. Am I actually even? Yeah, I actually don't know if am I even actually streaming on YouTube? To be honest, I have no idea. I don't think I am. All right, so let's take some more questions. Let's have some more discussions. I think I'm gonna actually round up to be a bit with my wife and kid. Yeah, actually, I don't. Yeah, am I? Oh, I am streaming on YouTube. So it's so strange that YouTube is so quiet today. I think Twitch is morally greedy and toxic platform. I don't want to support it. Possibly, yeah, possibly. The thing is, I mean, what is to say, right? That's just how it is, right? People, like this is how I see it, right? You have a bunch of people like me, millions of developers who go to work every day and who actually can share genuine insights with others, real insights, not like bullshit influencer type of crap, like you should be using Rust. What have you built in Rust? Nothing, right? So the thing is, like, the irony of content is that content, for the most part, is not created by people who actually go to work. It's created by people who do this full time. They sit home and they just replicate content from other things, right? So the biggest irony is that the reason why not more people are doing this is because, again, they're not seeing the incentive. Let's not deceive ourselves, right? In order for me to show up here every night and answer questions, I need to be incentivized as well. And please don't, right? It's just how it is. I mean, there's no human being on this earth that doesn't want to be not even compensated like in a financial sense, but to feel some sort of result of their work. Right? So that's just how it is. And the reason why you're not seeing more people with full-time jobs doing this is exactly that. Because why would they, right? I like it because I have built a community here and there's a bunch of you guys coming back. So that is my motivation. But besides that, I mean, what is the incentive, right? There's really no incentive. And that's why Twitch will eventually evaporate and die, right? Exactly. Exactly, Leo. That's also the problem. Every fucking thing is like, exactly. I agree with you, yeah. What is your top 3 ORM in Node.js? I don't have any top ones. I've been using Sequelize for many years. I've been using Next.js as a query builder. Honestly, for the most part, you don't need an ORM. If you know SQL, you in most times you don't even need one. Yeah, I mean that's look. Please don't misunderstand me. It's just that is just the reality, and this is I'm just always being very transparent about things. When people ask me why are you not streaming more actively and stuff, that is the answer. Honestly, I don't see the incentive. I made many assumptions. For example, I thought that if I'm streaming, more people will sign up on Programmer Network. They will become early adopters, etc., etc. That has materialized to some degree, but not as much as I wanted. So of course, there's always your time investment and your expectations, and that's just how it is. And I don't think that any of you would look at it differently if you're sitting here, right? So sitting, for 3-4 hours and talking into a camera, for anybody, I'm sure, is not it takes energy and time, and you're taking your time from family and friends and your other things that you can do, right? So it's just common sense. There's nothing really, that's just how it is. And like Leo said, it's also very hard for people to subscribe everywhere, right? I mean, every corner of your life where you go, subscribe for this, subscribe for Netflix, subscribe for newsletters, subscribe for this, right? So people also get sick of paying 500 different things, right? So I also get that, right? Yeah. What do you think about NeoVim? I mean, I don't think it. I mean, I think I have a video on this. Like the thing is, what you should do in your career, right, is focus on things that bring you value to sell yourself. Nobody gives a fucking crap if you're using NeoVim, VS Code, Notepad, or anything. I'm actually very shocked that there are so many people, so many sweaty basement dwellers being affected by these things. It's literally it's hard to comprehend. Like, what text editor you use, nobody cares. 1%, 0.1%. Like, you will not go into an interview and say, I use NeoVim, and they're like, yeah, you're hired. Nobody cares, man. It's like saying, which underwear am I wearing? Nobody cares, man. You're paid to deliver work at your job, right? What editor you're using, nobody cares. Like, I never understood people who talk about these things. It's so useless to talk about these things, right? Like, how you deliver code into some repository and how you deploy it, nobody cares. Nobody is going to give you salary because you're using VS Code or NeoVim or Nano or like... It doesn't matter. If you feel productive, then that's great. Then use it, right? I'm just saying nobody cares about it's a text editor, right? It's almost hilarious to even discuss. You know, that is just, there's no value there. If you feel great using a tool, if you feel productive, fuck yeah, go for it, right? That's great. That's super. But just my main point is nobody else cares. You're not going to get points when applying for a job, when going to work, when sitting at work and writing code. Nobody cares about the text editor you're using, right? That's just how it is. There are people who deliver work, tangible value to the company. They care about the customers, they care about other things. And then there are still kids, children who are obsessed by text editors, by programming languages and stuff. And that's always how it has been, right? And I never told you what's better. I never even mentioned that's one or there's none of them are better. So I absolutely agree with you, Soligar. I'm not saying that one or the other. I'm just saying it's irrelevant which text editor you're using. The one that's better, it's subjective. It depends on who is using it, right? So there's no such thing as better, right? That doesn't exist. You might be thinking it's better, but that's not an objective fact. It's a subjective opinion, right? So what I think about NeoVim, I use NeoVim at times when I'm doing server-related stuff, and I'm going to open it up a few times when I need to. But again, it's just a text editor, and I can write text in it, right? So the thing is, like, the reason why my stream is not as popular in some of these things, right, is because things that I'm saying are very boring, right? So I would be way more popular if I tell you things in a different way. Like my stream, I'm a realist, right? I come here every now and then, every month, and I stream, and I tell things from experience as they are, right? And this is not popular, right? That's why you have that Vim guy and other guys watching it, because he's an entertainer and he's saying whatever he has to say to the target group that he owns, so these people feel cool, right? I'm not gonna come here and tell you spend 500 hours learning Vim, because that's simply a stupid advice, right? And that's I'm not an entertainer, and some people, obviously don't seek. This is an entertainment platform. This is not an educational platform. So fundamentally, I understand that people seek to be entertained, not to get insights, and that's perfectly fine, man. That's why I know that I will never be a content creator, because I'm not going to say shit for the sake of saying it so I get engagement score up and clicks and views. I'm never gonna do that, not because I don't want to explicitly, simply that's not who I am. I can't do it. Right? So that's just how it is. And yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's not the content that's really needed much on platforms like this, and that's also fine. It's just, it depends what it is that you want to do. Some people will tell you things that, and I get it, right? People who do this full time, they need to, if you're doing this full time, you need to survive, right? You need to, you need to, you need to survive. You need to get that engagement up. So this is not a critique towards these people. If I was doing this full time, I would have to find the ways, right, to how do I keep people engaged, right? So that is just the sad reality of it. Somebody on YouTube is asking, have you tried DeepSeek? I actually have tried DeepSeek. I'm reading a book. I'm reading an actual book called Find Your Why. Let me show you. I'm reading this book now by Simon. I'm reading this book now, and in this book, the author tells you to find a person to. So in the first chapter of Find Your Why, the author tells you that you should find a person, so that person can almost like be your it's a person you should tell things to, so that person then tries to figure out your why, to help you find your why. Because I didn't want to find a person, I used DeepSeek for that. Actually, I used the DeepSeek for it, and it was actually pretty awesome. In fact, yeah, I posted on it on LinkedIn, exactly. So I think I logged in with my company email there, but it was pretty awesome, yeah. So you can see here, I'm not gonna share this with you, all of you, but you see here it says exploring life choices and personal motivations. So what you can do, and this is what I did, bear with me. So what you can do, you can go to docs.google.com. This is kind of how I write my blog posts and stuff. You open a new document, you go to tools, And then you click here on voice typing. And then you say, you know, hey, I would like to say something about myself, and I would like to reflect about my life, my choices, my whys, and where I want to go in my life. This is just random, right? You click stop, you copy this crap over here, and then you click deep think, right? And then you obviously submit it. So this was my way, Neki Leak on YouTube. This was my way to have basically someone, almost like a person it's a free, this is a Chinese AI tool, and right now it's amazing. Right now, OpenAI is actually feeling a little bit threatened because it's so effective, it's so cheap to run. It's, I don't know, it's 1/10, 1/50th of the price, right? But anyway, yes, I have used DeepSeek, and this is how I use it. So you go to here, you just talk, and then you basically just talk about yourself as you see yourself. And then once you do that, you can just paste it here, enable this deep think, and then you can see, okay, the user wants to reflect on their life choices, what's been wise and where they have headed. Let me start by acknowledging their initiative. That's a positive step. Press Windows plus H on your keyboard. This opens up voice typing. Ah, interesting. Let's see. All right, that's amazing. Welcome to voice access. Do you want to set up voice access? Yes. Very interesting. Anyway, try this. Give this a shot. I think it's awesome. And why the fuck is this? All right, let's go back here. And thank you very much for the voice typing. I appreciate that. I didn't know that. Okay, add microphone. Nekilik, yeah, you can also do that. Yeah, I mean, every AI is gonna do that. Yes, every AI is going to do that. Zoda, thank you very much, man. That's what keeps me. These types of comments keep me coming back to stream. It's just somebody asked, and I just felt like I should share the opposite perspective, right? On on like why, if people ask, hey, why are you not streaming all the time and stuff? It's a lot of effort, man. It's a lot of effort, and sooner or later, right? Like, I remember, Leo, a year ago, I think I was talking about this over here, and I said, look, no matter how stubborn you are, like, I'm a very methodical and person, and I can stick to a goal for a very long time, but I'm also not a robot. So sooner or later, you have to re-question your goals, right? You imagine some sort of things and how you see them, evolve and happen, and then over time, right? So it was the same with streaming. I used to stream actually almost every night, right, for 3-4 hours, but then that just evaporated, right? Currently, I'm working on an e-commerce app. For backend, I use Nest, and for front, I got Next. The left to do is just finish UI and front actions, but in my first time creating e-commerce app, and don't know how to check if it's production ready. Well, I mean, production ready so if something is production ready, you shouldn't really think about that right now, right? Everything is production ready when you have no users, right? So yeah, and also do what Leo says, but if everything, when you don't have users, everything is production ready, right? You have to have one user first, or you have to have early adopters. But of course, there are certain security things that you have to do in your app, which are common for every single app. So you have to prevent cross-site scripting. You have to prevent people for, you have to add some rate limiting, right? So somebody can't just come, like if I go and start auto cannon attack, right? So you need to, security is primary thing. Your product is going to fail for the first few customers, 100%. There's no question about that. Customers will find ways to break your app. There's no app that doesn't have bugs. That's a myth. But you have to go through a standard checklist of security things, right? So ensure that, yeah, your app is secure, like both. And when I say secure, what do I mean? What is an app? App is everything from your networking layer, depending how your infrastructure is done. You're probably considering what you said. You're probably using Vercel or something like that. So some of these things are done for you. But you fundamentally have to ensure that a basic checklist, security checklist is there, right? So rate limiting is one thing. Depending how you stored your JSON web token or how you're doing your sessions, how is it stored, cross-site scripting, and then things such as, are you accidentally delivering passwords from your API to the UI, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But besides these things, if you can guarantee that right, that somebody is not going to gain access to your database in the next day, then you shouldn't worry too much. And it's good to know that you're sure that you're going to have users. That's great. Maybe you already have some users there. Then in that case, what are you waiting for? I mean, you can already seek out these users, offer them a free package or whatever, and then ask them to be your super users, your early adopters, right? This is just how it works. So you should already have, if you know that you're going to have some users, then you should already open it up. Yeah, that's great. I mean, these are again basic. These are standard checklists, right? Hashing the passwords, protecting the routes, having some roles, some as it's often referred to as ACL, access control lists, right? So if you have that, that's great. Then you can already get some users in and give it a shot. But make sure you have some early adopters, right? That's very important. That's what I did with Programmer Network and many other things I built before. I had users who logged in and reported things and et cetera, et cetera. So maybe do that as well. That's what I would do. That's what I would do at least. All right, fellas. Okay, well, that's kind of it, I suppose, for today. Let's round it up. I want to go and be with my family a little bit. I have to go to work tomorrow and stuff, and I need to eat. And I've been to the gym, so I need to lay down a bit. But what can I say? Look, as always, thank you very much for being here. As I always try to end this stream, and I will end it like that now. Focus on yourselves, compare yourselves only to yourselves and how you were the day before. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't trust the bullshit. Don't get into the hype. Believe what you see with your own eyes. And try to be better at certain things every day. Eat healthy, take a walk, take a run. Appreciate the life around you and focus on the things that you have. What I see every day with people is that it's so easy to fall trap to this capitalistic picture, right? Appreciate, remind yourself of the things you have in life oftentimes and not of the things that you don't have. I see this almost like a cancer in our society. A lot of us are already very fortunate in life and a lot of us have things already. So maybe sometimes rebalancing your perspective of things can help. And just to learn new things. And I do that certainly every single day. I try to just keep myself afloat. And be proactive, not reactive. Don't bitch about things that you can't help and make better. And this is my general advice and always will be. And I hope it finds you well. Thank you very much again. And I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow or some other time. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye. Cheers.